It's 3:15, and that means it's time for
The Real Deal with Bill McNeil.
That's right. Welcome once again to The Real Deal with Bill McNeil. I'm your host, Bill McNeil, and you're probably wondering exactly what is the real deal today.
Hey, good question.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. We've got some mostly independent comic news. We've had some pretty heavy news lately, but a few things trickled in. We've got McFarlane Day. If you're a big fan of Todd McFarlane, you might want to be a part of that. We've also got a new crowdfunder from Brett Booth and Scott Lobdell, the Anybodies. I got the deets on those. We've also got, there's an auction out there. There's an unpublished Ed Brubaker Batman comic that he's put up for auction to support a wonderful cause. I'll give you those details as well. And finally, Valiant Comics is the next independent comic publisher jumping into the crowdfunding game on Kickstarter with a new Eternal Warrior graphic novel. I'll give you those details. Now, before I get into all this news, it's all going to be a lot of fun. My good friends over at Comics Elite wanted you to know that today at their shop at Comics Elite in Indianapolis, Indiana, Donny Cates is visiting the store. When I say today, I mean October 13th. They will be doing live sales with him throughout the day and evening. And if you cannot make it, obviously not everybody that watches the channel, a vast majority likely aren't in that area, you can actually go to their website, comicselite.com, and you can pre-order signed comics from Donny Cates, or you can see some of their spectacular, store exclusive variant covers that they have right now. So definitely go give the fellows over at Comics Elite a visit over to their site. If you can, go see them in person, go meet Donny Cates, have your comic book signed. Be a lot of fun. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into today's comic book news. We've got McFarlane Day. The Todd father himself is partnering with video game store GameStop for McFarlane Day this week. McFarlane himself tweeted, "Folks, next week is the first ever McFarlane Day at GameStop. Stay tuned for amazing deals and exclusive pre-order launches." Now, obviously, Todd McFarlane is much more than just the writer of the new Spawn universe and an executive at Image Comics. He's also the man behind McFarlane Toys. So does McFarlane Day, is he talking about comics or toys? I imagine he's mostly talking about toys, people, because you can absolutely buy McFarlane Toys at GameStop. But you can't rule out comics, because this week, or at least on October 20th, next week, we've got Gunslinger Spawn number 1 and King Spawn number 3 arriving. And there's also a reprint of King Spawn number 1, which was an absolute dynamite seller. As in Gunslinger Spawn 1 is going to be as well. And obviously, Gunslinger Spawn 1 is the one comic from this new Spawn universe that I'm super excited for. The Brett Booth art in there, I think Phil Tan is on there. There's another artist. I can't remember who they are. But that's the one that really looked like it was going to be amazing. And we also know that Todd McFarlane will be participating in DC Fandom on Saturday, October 16th. Most likely talking about his McFarlane Toys. He's got a lot of exclusives with DC Comics. I know you can get like the White Knight collectibles and all that stuff there. So Todd McFarlane is a legend in the comic book industry. There's going to be something going on at GameStop this week regarding Todd McFarlane. I think it's likely to do the toys, but you can't rule out the comics because he does have a lot of things percolating over there in the Spawn universe. If you want to support it, I say go to your local GameStop if you have one. See if you can find out what Todd McFarlane Week is all, or Todd McFarlane Day is all about. Gosh, Wes, can't even speak right. And that is that. Now let's get to this fantastic looking crowdfunder from Brett Booth and Scott Lobdell, the Anybodies. They launched their new comic book on Kickstarter, and it was funded in just under 5 hours. I believe they are about, at the time of this recording, so it should be about the same. It's about at $11,000 total. I believe, personally, just based on the viewership, that a lot of the viewers of the channel would be very, very interested in this comic book. Brett Booth is an absolute fantastic artist. Obviously, he comes from the Jim Lee Wildstorm tree. Scott Lobdell obviously cut his teeth on the X-Men, also done some very good work at DC Comics, which I'm going to talk about here at the end. Now, as far as the Anybodies, it is a 40-page comic that has already been written, penciled, inked, and lettered with colors from Andrew Dalhouse, and has an estimated shipping of March 2022. So you're not going to have to wait all that long for your copy of the Anybody should you decide to back it. And there are, of course, a ton of different tiers and options for you to support the comic book. Now, if you're interested, obviously the art that I've got up here right now looks quite fantastic. The Anybodies are a unique team because each member is handpicked by an enigmatic figure who triggers their superpower for 1 year only. And that enigmatic figure is Dr. Edgerton, who can only ever activate 5 superheroes at one time. He never asks, never gives a heads up, and doesn't always get it right. More than once, he's inadvertently created a supervillain, and he could not anticipate the horror that is the anti-hero known as Groar. So it's got some X-Men tendencies to it with a little twist on it. Makes sense. Scott Lobdell certainly is well known for his work on the X-Men. We've seen Brett Booth do some X-Men work lately. X-Men Legends was absolutely fantastic. He did some cover work. He did an issue with Jonathan Hickman, and he also did that really fantastic cover for Guardians of the Galaxy when it relaunched. Well, it didn't relaunch. When Al Ewing took over. I think it did relaunch. That was a #1. Get out. No, it didn't relaunch. It was when Dr. Doom was going to join the team. I'm getting all my facts confused. Now, as far as the team, the newest reluctant recruit is named New Girl, and she woke up in the morning as a truck stop waitress in the Deep South and may wind up going to bed as a superheroine who wields a deadly psionic force field. We've also got the Brat, who is the team leader, because she said so. This dishonorably discharged Iraqi war veteran was happy to learn she had the power of invincibility. We've got Pulse, a young Iranian blogger, certain he'd be buried in a shallow grave for speaking truth to power, but since his encounter with Dr. Edgerton, he possesses a biopulse that can topple mountains and maybe free his people. Very interesting there. It's kind of like a Havoc or a Cyclops type of thing here, huh? We've also got River Styx, raised in the bayou, and it never occurred to him he'd live anywhere else. Now he has the ability to travel anywhere in the blink of an eye and brings his teammates with it. So we got a little bit of a Nightcrawler flavor. Obviously, he's not quite as limited as Nightcrawler. It sounds like he can go anywhere in the world. I wonder if he can go anywhere in the galaxy. Maybe he can go to Mars or something using his abilities. And the final member, known only as Groar, he was way better off before having been nudged by the mysterious Dr. Edgerton. Obviously, that is the big bad villain. And that is the team working under Dr. Edgerton. Sounds like a lot of fun. I think if you're a fan of X-Men, you're probably going to like the premise of this, but there's certainly its own twist on it. It's definitely going to be its own thing. So even if you don't like X-Men, if you're just a fan of Scott Lobdell and fantastic art from Brett Booth, I think this is probably one of the crowdfunders that you should look at. Now, if you do not know, the two have worked together quite a bit. They worked together on I believe it was the DC Universe Rebirth Teen Titans, which was pretty darn good. I like that one a lot. But really, the work that they did on Flash Forward was fantastic. I really like that one. Obviously, I believe Brett Booth was supposed to do a Wally West series within Future State before it got, well, I guess it was going to be Generation 5 before it got altered. And that's unfortunate because Brett Booth's Wally West as the Flash is absolutely fantastic. If you go read Flash Forward, it is essentially the first attempt after Heroes in Crisis to rehabilitate the character Wally West after he became a mass murderer. I think Lobdell and Brett Booth did yeoman's work and the very best they could to really make the character important. Obviously, we ended up with Dr. Manhattan, Wally West Flash kind of version that felt like he was going to be a really big deal in Dark Knight's Death Metal. Apparently, Scott Snyder thought what they did in Flash Forward was more of a joke and kind of made the character that by the end, which was really unfortunate. But you could tell that Scott Lobdell and Brett Booth have a genuine love and affection for the character Wally West, and they did the very best they could to rehabilitate him after Heroes in Crisis. I think the two work very well together, and that is your Kickstarter, the Anybody's crowdfunding on Kickstarter. There obviously is a link in the video description below if you want to go check it out yourself and go support this. I think it is going to be fantastic. If you are a fan of Ed Brubaker, you do know that he abruptly left Batman back in the day and he has no interest in ever returning to Main Street Comics again. I believe he was offered one of those Substack deals where he got the grant where you get lots and lots of money, you get health coverage and all this stuff, but he's so jaded, and he's like, nah, I'm just going to stick with I think he might have an Image exclusive, one of the few creators that does. Ed Brubaker is one of the best modern comic writers there are. Everything that he's touched, in my opinion, has been at a minimum very good. He obviously he wrote the last great Captain America run. His work within the criminal universe, and and all the other stuff he's done at Image, the kind of the pulpy crime noir stuff that he had and Phillips do together are absolutely fantastic. He has a newsletter. I imagine it's on Substack, but I might be wrong on that one. And he made an appeal on the behalf of a friend. He wrote, quote, "A few weeks ago, my friend Scott Porter asked if I'd be a part of the auction he helps run to raise money to fight Huntington's disease. I have a friend with Huntington's, and I've seen what it does to people, so I really wanted to help. Here is a link to the auction site. And there's also going to be 3 signed and personalized Criminal Deluxe hardcovers offered up on the auction if you're interested in those." Now, the comic script that he's auctioning up was meant to be Detective Comics 797, ended up being a fill-in issue as he eventually, I guess he left DC after this. And this is what he had to say about the script, if you're interested in it. He said, "This is the last Batman script I ever wrote for DC, which, although it was drawn, was never published. I actually got fired off the book after I turned in the script, and it was so long ago I almost forgot why. I think partly it had to do with Didio. Took my new artist, Ryan Sook, and put him on Hawkman instead, and I got pretty pissy about it because he just drawn the first issue of what was meant to be a 6-issue arc. Anyway, here's your chance to own a copy of that script, not for publication, in copyright to DC Comics, personalized by me, a bit of comics non-history, a canceled comic cavalcade of one. I recall being very excited about this story, and there was even a new villain in it, and Ryan's pages for the issue were the best." So if you are a fan of Ed Brubaker and you would like this piece of comic book history and you want to support a worthy cause, to support, well, not support Huntington's disease, but support the people afflicted by Huntington's disease, you can go to this auction. Obviously, there's going to be a link in the video description if you're interested in this. Not only is this script available, like I said, there are 3 signed and personalized Criminal Deluxe hardcovers. Also, the auction includes lots of amazing stuff, including Zoom calls with famous people, and lots of Hollywood-related stuff like that. Want signed Friday Night Lights memorabilia? Want to meet Melanie Linsky and ask about Heavenly Creatures, or talk to the guy who plays Lucifer on Netflix? You can bid on all that and lots more. And there's also going to be Jim Lee commission sketches and Scotty Young custom prints and more. So there's, if you're a Hollywood fan of pop culture, there's going to be stuff in there. If you're specifically a comic book fan, there are definitely going to be things worth bidding on there as well. And I say, if you have the ability and you want to go get your hands on this, I imagine the auction will go pretty high. People love Ed Brubaker. They certainly love Batman. This is definitely a part of history, but there are going to be other options for you out there to support this, or to help raise money to help fight Huntington's disease. Finally, many of you know I am absolutely, or was, a Valiant Comics fanatic. Specifically, my favorite character of the Exo Man of War. Rye is my second favorite character, although I think the Rye 4001 AD is the best comic story that was ever put out by Valiant, and I think the best comic story I've ever written. But Robert Venditti's Exo Man of War absolutely is right up there with it. Those are absolutely fantastic. Valiant Comics has fallen on hard times. They basically jettisoned everyone that made Valiant Comics cool, as far as the relaunch, Dinesh Shamdasani, Warren Simmons, and a lot of other people. And they brought in a bunch of other comic industry veterans to run it, and it's gone very poorly. And there really hasn't been anything outside of Shadowman worth reading at Valiant Comics in about 2.5, maybe 3 years. Ever since the end of Matt Kint's Ninja K, there really hasn't been anything worth reading, in my opinion, from Valiant Comics. But we do have a 100-page graphic novel coming up on Kickstarter, written by Trace Deed, artist Alberto Terracito, and cover artist Gerald Perel. Eternal Warrior, Scorched Earth, features the titular Eternal Warrior, Gilad, I just call him Gilad, Alongside Tama the Geomancer and more, the story finds Gilad and Tama as they investigate mysterious fires that appear to be more than natural disasters, while the Eternal Warrior suspects the return of an ancient fire deity. Tama attempts to fulfill her role as the Geomancer without being in Gilad's shadow. As far as supporting us, the first 250 subscribers to the official Valiant Kickstarter newsletter for Eternal Warrior Scorched Earth gain free access to an exclusive day one offer of a bookmark featuring artwork from the graphic novel when the Kickstarter goes live. Also, Valiant's Kickstarter for Eternal Warrior Scorched Earth goes live in early November with pledge tiers ranging from digital copies to special deluxe editions, with retailers getting a special option. So there you go. If you want to support this, obviously it's coming up November. Now, if you are interested in the Eternal Warrior and you have not read it, I say bypass this. Go to your comic store today and read Robert Venditti's Wrath of the Eternal Warrior. I believe it's a 12-issue miniseries. It's absolutely fantastic. You will learn all you need to know about Gilad, the Eternal Warrior, and his role in the Valiant universe, and as far as being the protector of the Geomancer, and why he is the Eternal Warrior. Can he be killed? It's very interesting, actually. There's also a special event they did called the Book of Death, also from Robert Venditti. I believe Doug Braithwaite was the primary artist on that one. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's who the artist was. That is one of the fantastic Valiant Comics events that Robert Venditti, my personal favorite comic book writer, authored. I would say this one is just under, what is it? Armor Wars. Armor Wars is better, but Book of Death is absolutely fantastic. And this is an Eternal Warrior Geomancer event. You got Shadow Man, I believe, in there. It's got a lot of the characters from the Valiant Comics universe. There's also 4 tie-in comics. They always did. You get the 4-issue like event series, and you get 4 tie-in comics with different characters, and you see their deaths. If you're a fan of Rai, and if you read the Ninja K Book of Death, you will learn where Rai's sword came from. And it's one of the coolest pieces of connective tissue I've ever seen in a shared comics universe, in my opinion. So I say bypass the Kickstarter and just go read Robert Venditti's Eternal Warrior, read the Book of Death. And then if you like the character, maybe go consider supporting the Kickstarter from Valiant Comics, which opens up in about a month. And that is today's news. Mostly, well, I guess it was all, but it's a Batman script, so there's a little bit of Big Two, but this is mostly independent comic news. Obviously, we got some bigger things coming later today. We got This Week in Batman with Josh. We have tonight. I got another video about woke culture coming up tomorrow. I hope you enjoy that, and I'll see you all later. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.